New listeners, if you're out there right now, look into the camera, look into the screen, look at me right now. If you want to go ahead and start listening to That's the Flavor, it's the kind of podcast you listen to when you clean your house. That is a Victoria-approved statement. Hello, everybody. I'm Christian, and welcome back to That's the Flavor, episode number 40. Oh, God. 42. That's the number. I literally was spending all day thinking about it on which one it was going to be. Remembered it, forgot it, and now we're here. It's episode 42. Welcome back to That's the Flavor. This week it's just Christian. Ozzy is in New York getting settled in. But so it's just me, over here hosting my thing. But we brought on a guest for the show this week for episode 42. Victoria, welcome back to the show. It's been 3 years since you were last on, as it is with every guest.
It has been
welcome
more.
back. Yeah, it has been. We episode 30 when we had on Cameron, who's now our audio editor, and then Brady, who were a previous guest on the show. Like, oh yeah, it's been a little bit since you've been on the show, and no, it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years. But welcome back to the show. We're gonna hang out, have some fun this week, ask you some questions about your new YouTube channel prospects, maybe some current That's the Flavor shenanigans, and just gonna hang out and have a good time. Let me tell y'all, Taste Buds, it feels really weird solo hosting. And now I know how Ozzy felt on episode 28 when he recorded and hosted by himself. And now I know how I felt 3 years ago recording all the old episodes. Because this is a weird feeling, being the guy. And I don't really like the soul energy it's putting on my shoulders. But Taste Buds, That's the Flavor is a podcast you can find every Monday on your podcast feeds, every Monday morning, right around 8 a.m. Eastern time, depending on, how I'm feeling when it comes to releasing it. We handle some of life's goofiest topics, like are chicken tenders a sandwich? If you could replace all the dirt in the world with one substance, what would you do? What would you choose? Air Bud versus Scooby-Doo, Chick-fil-A versus alligators. Last week we asked the question, is Shakespeare packing heat? Or was Shakespeare packing heat? We just kind of hang out, have a good time. We're best friends having a conversation. We want you to just hop in and join that conversation. So thank you guys for your support on last week's episode. And we're going to go ahead and hop on into it. We'll tell you more about That's the Flavor episode. If I say "and one more time, I might scream. But Victoria, welcome back to That's the Flavor. How have you been? How have the past 3 years of your life been?
Crazy busy.
Okay.
I graduated college, then I, just continued to work, and it's mostly just been work, to be perfectly honest, but
I've been really busy. It's just a lot of work. A lot of work.
Much, and then I get to use aspects that I earn in my degree. It's like, oh, hey, I learned this in class, let me use it, but mostly just, back to work.
Right. Let me ask you this. So as somebody who, we were in the same college classes together, graduated around the same time, and I know I've asked a lot of my actor and theater friends this question. Do you feel like COVID has made it harder / has made it harder to actually pursue theater as a degree? In a sense, do you feel like we got screwed over because of when we graduated and got our degree?
I think kind of.
Okay.
There are definitely moments that's oh, this class actually did work really well online. But then there are others, it's you just can't do stage combat online the way you can in person. It's
we were punching pillows into our office chairs.
Right? You would slap someone across the screen and there would be a delay, and it's 5 seconds later,
And then we would get docked points for that delay that we couldn't control. You gotta anticipate the delay. I don't think I can do that. I can't anticipate internet speeds.
Exactly.
I'm not a math major. I'm a theater major. There's a reason I'm here, and it's not to. Yeah, because I look at it from even. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say there are definitely some classes that work totally fine online. The ones more about the history of theater. Those are perfectly fine online. It's the ones where you have to actually do actions that it's this doesn't work over Zoom as well as it could in person. And there are certain things I feel I would probably be a lot better at stuff like stage combat if I had gotten to learn it in person rather than over Zoom.
Right. I definitely feel the same way. There's something that you don't get the same effect of learning a movement class over a camera, but anything that had to do with the voice or facial expressions, I feel like actually benefited from being online.
Oh,
Because like our
voice.
voice classes, for example, like being able to retake and re-record our submissions for our accents multiple times, one of the best things that saved my grade in that class.
Oh, definitely.
Like
Definitely.
if we didn't have that ability, I don't know how my grades would have looked. That's all
Yeah.
I'm gonna say on that.
I think
But
voice worked
even
really well online, but some of
yeah,
the others didn't.
right. I mean, even from like so yeah, talking about the actual class is one thing, but like from a business standpoint of it, where like the world of theater itself hasn't fully recovered either, in my opinion. Like I'm very much of the stance that the way theater was post COVID versus to the way it is now, like, are two very different things. And because of the way the world, like, the way the theater world is post COVID, like, it was way harder to get internships, get scholarships, get opportunities because no theater slash school knew what they were truly doing during like COVID era of whatever. And so like I stand by the fact of like it's not that it was ever easy, but it's definitely harder post COVID, I think, to get your foot in the door anywhere.
Yeah, I think so too, because COVID, because of everything shutting down, like not just
Mhm.
theater, but like everything shutting down,
Mhm.
it's like the only form of acting you could really do was voice acting. So
Mhm.
all the big time movie stars switched over, like, oh, let's do voice acting in this cartoon, and
Right.
like, I'll take any job. So then the voice actors got pushed out of that. So it's like everyone kind of. I'm not one to be like, stay in your lane. If you are good at this acting, you can only do that. But what I am saying is that a lot of people who that is their profession, they had to
Yeah.
take a back seat to those who are coming in from the other side of theater and going into that,
Right.
and then
This
therefore
just in,
others.
Victoria says stay in your lane. If you're an actor and you're good at one thing, don't try anything else. Hot
Never
off the
ever try
presses.
new things. You are good at one thing. You know? No, but it is like it's hard because there's so many, people competing for different things. Like in any job,
Right.
but with theater, it's like, okay, well, an entire branch of that, it's like, oh well, we can't do that. And now that things are reopening up, it's like, well, everyone's kind of like, oh, well, I like doing this. Now let me try this. And now you've got the writer's strike, so that's like whole other can of worms,
Yeah.
like mixing people up.
Right.
And like I'm sure there's pros and cons to like people finding, oh, I enjoy this form of acting over this other form.
Right.
However, it definitely did make it so that those who are just starting out have like way less of an opportunity getting in.
Yes, I think it made every actor that was currently acting have to be more versatile. Even if they didn't want to, they had to, and because of that, it has shrunken the amount of opportunity in that pool. And again, this isn't to say that like being an actor still isn't possible. Like you can still put in the elbow grease, and like also the fact of like you still had to put in that elbow grease and that work before. I just think it is a step harder now than it was then. Even just looking at the landscape, because even when I was in school before COVID and so forth, and going, oh man, whenever I graduate, it's going to be really hard. Like, what do I do? Like, and even then, getting out of school during COVID was like, bam, it's harder now. It's harder. Part of the reason why That's the Flavor exists is because of that. Is because of, oh hey, COVID, and also still wanting to like perform, even though it's not a performance. I don't know, very very strange. But
Which brings up a new like kind of area of like, oh yeah, well, performers, like, in a way it's better because not everyone's tied down by one specific industry, because it's like, oh, I can do something on TikTok or YouTube and gain attraction there, and like this is where I got a fan base. But it's like, well, everyone hops on, trends or whatever, and it's like YouTube fame, internet fame is so much more fleeting than like other types of, it fame, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's all the way there's different opportunities, and some are good and some are not as great because
yeah,
everything's online now.
yeah, and that's part of it. Like you said, the point internet fame is fleeting, and it's like internet fame is so fleeting because of the way the internet world works in terms of trends and what's popular and so forth. And so it's like, for the longest time, I was a gaming YouTuber, right? I made gaming videos, and it's like after a certain point, your stuff is really popular, and then as soon as the game you were playing was no longer popular, your stuff was no longer popular. So, like, and it's that same thing, you apply that to TikTok or so forth. If all of a sudden, let's say you're really good at a certain dance, right? And then that dance is certainly no longer popular, anything you're posting, like, is no longer on the algorithm, no longer trending, and so forth. And so it's like, unless you are willing... Go ahead.
Oh, I was gaining a bunch of views on, like, doing Kids Bop parodies, and those were gaining, like, hundreds of thousands of views. But it's like, eventually, I got bored with that. People got bored of watching it. I'm like, I'm done doing this. Now my account's, like, dead. I don't remember the last thing I posted on there. But, like, it's so quick, and, like, it was fun. But it's also, like, I don't know. It didn't do much.
No. It's like, unless you're willing, like, unless you know from the start you want to be a creator, like, it's really hard to want to keep up with it, right? Like, and that's how I even feel about That's the Flavor sometimes. Obviously, like, I want to put in the elbow grease, make That's the Flavor what it is, but it's like the constant posting of YouTube shorts, of like the constant, okay, what am I doing wrong, and adjusting content structures and so forth. Yeah. And it's just, sometimes it's like, you go and you're like, do I really want to do this? And you go, yeah, you do, but like, it is the more frustrating part of it. It's like, why is this content that I'm doing the exact same thing I do with all of it not popular versus something that is? It's that constant struggle.
And then, you never know what video or what podcast, what's going to suddenly blow up. And then it's like, oh, why is that the one that got me popular? I put like 5 minutes of work into that, and I kind of hate it. And it's like, now everyone wants this, it is. So ultimately, like, as far as social media, for me personally, like, it would be cool if I could have that as a career. And like, my channel, I do want to keep working on. Yeah. However, I also want to do it as long as it's fun for me. But like, if it's something where it's like, I am not getting any joy out of this, and it's a chore, then it's like, what even is the point?
Yeah, Ozzy and I had that discussion with the show, and we said, okay, well, to kind of get better views or better traction, we could be doing this, but if we did that, it wouldn't be authentic to the reason why That's the Flavor exists, because it was like talking about, That's the Flavor is a show that's all over the place, right? Like, we talk about literally anything and everything, and we're like, well, we could dial in what we talk about and like make it a little bit more structured, but then it wouldn't be something we enjoy doing anymore. So like, yeah, is the growth slower because of that? Sure, but we're also having more fun doing our show. But you mentioned your YouTube channel, which VicForAChange, which if you guys haven't gone over and checked it out, you're currently doing animation stuff over there. So what was kind of the process that led you to that? Because obviously before that on TikTok you were doing your puppets and so forth. So what kind of initiated the pivot to like animation?
So I watch like a lot of animator YouTubers.
Okay.
Who basically, they'll animate a story from their childhood or whatever. And I'm like, you know what I could do is like because most of my stories, it's like, I'll be like, okay, this is really good. I want to use this for my stand-up comedy one day. So I'll write that down and save that for stand-up. But there's a bunch of stories that I'm like, I want to tell this, but it wouldn't translate to stage as well. Like, it wouldn't translate. So I'm like, you know what? I like this format. And when I was younger, I really wanted to do animating, but then I kind of like shelved that and focused solely on acting. And I'm like, you know what? Why not go back to that and like try and do some animating storytelling, like how all these other YouTubers I watch are doing it. I'm like, I love this. Let me try this out. And I mean, it's a lot of work, but overall, I was doing something and I'm like, I am proud of myself for this. Like, I really, really like that I did this, which is not like a feeling I get very often, because just day-to-day life, it's like, yeah, I'm doing my thing, whatever. But it's like with this, it's like, wow, I made something that I am proud of. Like, I am so happy that I did this. And that's the kind of feeling that it's like, okay, this is what I want to do for a while.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Because like, it's one of those things. Because I know obviously we're friends in real life, and we have like group chats with other friends. And you're like, oh hey, look, I made this thing, and I went and I watched it. I was like, this isn't what I was expecting because of like the content you were making. And so it was a really cool pivot, and like also a really great pivot, I think. Because I think it kind of just like refreshes the content you're doing. I think it gives it a little bit of life, considering the kind of state your TikTok was in, more or less. You know what I mean? It gives it a refresh creatively.
Oh, yeah. which is great. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, of course. If you guys haven't, again, go check out Victoria's YouTube channel at VicForAChange. There will also be a link down in the description below to go ahead and check that stuff out. And go ahead and support her over there. Because we hear That's the Flavor. Support our friends. Even if they're Hugh Moran and he's over there with 5 million subscribers. We love you, Hugh. Yeah. But you mentioned the point of stuff getting like popular on YouTube or whatever versus like stuff that isn't popular. I mean, That's the Flavor's most viewed YouTube video, like full length episode, is the Chick-fil-A versus alligators one. For whatever reason, we don't know why. It just is, and like that's part of the YouTube struggle. There's no reason to know why. Like it just is.
It is, yeah. Because if you had asked me, oh, which of my videos do you think, as in like your videos, which That's the Flavor do you think got the most views? I probably would have been like, oh yeah, the Grimace Shake, because that was following the trend. You know, that's what was.
Yep.
But it's like, no, it's the other one. So sometimes
it's literally the one that came out a week later, and it's about another fast food restaurant.
Right. But see, sometimes just original ideas. You never know how far those are going to go. Chances are, if you find it funny, someone else will. And if you
randomly... that's the goal with That's the Flavor. Like somebody on Twitter asked us, they're like, "Oh, like what's your podcast about?" And I was like, it's kind of the concept of if two best friends were hanging out and just like shooting the shit with each other, and then somebody walked into that conversation. That is our podcast. That is how I have explained it as best as I can. Like, it's if you walked into the conversation of two best friends and then we're like, "Hey, like I want to join in on this conversation."
It's so crazy how much, because obviously, like we mentioned before, I listen to your podcast pretty regularly. And so, because we're friends, though, I know you and I know I've had conversations with you. So, like, I feel like, oh, yeah, he's in the room. It's, like, cool. So, there's so many times that you and Ozzy are talking about something, and I'm like, oh, yeah, can't because it's on the screen. That's where I either spam comments, which I've been starting to do more often, so that way it gets, numbers up. But also, that's where I always, like, I know I message you a lot, just like, hey, when you said this in this episode, this is what I was thinking.
And the thing is, you're not the only person in my life to do that either, which is great, because it's like, even Ozzy and I, after we record something, we'll listen to it again, and then we'll text each other about it, and it's like, hey, whenever you said this, and I was like, yeah, like, that too, like, we'll have conversations about it. But yeah, no, and that's just part of it. It's like, hey, I know the kind of conversations I have in friend groups, and let's just put that out into the world. And honestly, see where it goes.
Sometimes that's like the best type of podcast to listen to, is when you feel like you're part of the conversation, because it's like, oh yeah, these guys are cool. Because it doesn't feel fake. Like, it's not like this generic fake sounding. And I also like that you guys don't have a specific, like, topic that, like, oh, we are a Star Wars podcast or whatever. Because, like, those are great when you want something focused on that. But sometimes I just want something to listen to when I'm, like, cleaning the house. And it's like, what am I going to listen to? I don't feel like diving into all of the background information on The Shining. Like, what do I want? What a good
Hear that at home. New listeners, if you're out there right now, look into the camera, look into the screen, look at me right now. If you want to go ahead and start listening to That's the Flavor, it's the kind of podcast you listen to when you clean your house. That is a Victoria-approved statement. Right now, go ahead, hop in, start episode 25, the McDonald's rabbit hole, and start going down the That's the Flavor rabbit hole with us. And yeah, you heard that from Victoria, not even from me. It's the kind of podcast you listen to when you clean your house. So That's the Flavor. Go listen to it today. But enough about That's the Flavor. There's another topic I want to talk to you about. Considering I know you, you're a puppet person. That also means you're a Muppet person. Yes. And the amount of Muppet discourse that has been in my comments from you or in texts from you. Yes, so the Muppets.
Yeah.
So starting with the Muppets, we gotta just start. Favorite Muppet?
Oh,
you can only choose one. The rest die.
Die? That's so
yes, you can choose one Muppet. The rest get played out into like a Toy Story 3 trash compactor furnace scenario where they're all holding hands in the trash.
It's awful.
And the surviving Muppet has to watch. All right, that's
terrible.
That's the scenario you're in.
I really like Gonzo, But honestly, my gut is telling me Ralph the dog because
Okay.
he's chill. He's really cool. I really like Ralph, and I feel like he's very underrated as a character.
Right. No, I agree. My favorite Ralph moment is from the 2011 Muppets movie, and it's when they go to pick him up to like recruit him to like get the gang back together, and he's just sleeping on the hammock. And he's like, "Hey, Ralph, we're getting the gang back together. Like, you want it?" He's like, "Huh? Okay." And then
It's the best. It's like, hey, why didn't you tell my story? Because it
yeah,
was easy.
yep.
But he's
But no,
such an underrated character because like
I
he's so
agree.
funny, and like maybe it's because he's not used as much that just everything he says just is a million times funnier.
Mhm.
But
Well,
it's
also
like there's so much you can do.
right, and also in the beginning, like he was used all the time. He was one of like the original characters because he was on the Jimmy Dean show. Like he was Jimmy Dean's
Yeah.
sidekick basically for I want to say years, seasons at the very least, like of the show. And like was a recurring character on there, and so like Rolf was around more than anybody else for a good bit. And then just
Yeah, he
even
was, it was whenever you needed a Muppet in an interview, it was usually either Rolf or Kermit. And it's
right,
like, those are the two you got. But then Rolf kind of like phased out for a while. And then also they
yep,
realized in later seasons of the Muppet Show that, hey, people really like Gonzo. Let's do him for more.
mm-hmm.
Let's use him a lot more. And so he
right.
took that like kind of filled that gap, and then you had Scooter come in, and then all these others. But yeah, I mean, I think though overall, I'd probably say Rolf is my
I mean, that's a
favorite.
good choice. That's a good pool. Instead of being, because I was worried for a second you were going to say Kermit, and then I was going to have to like scold you a little bit because like that's a get you like get out of jail free card answer.
It is. It's a
Like
safe answer.
yeah, there you go. That's the word I could not think of. It's a safe answer for sure. Like for me, it's got to be Beaker. And I feel like most people know that like Beaker's my go-to guy. Has been for years. I got his Lego minifigure up on my shelf up here. Like
Nice.
can't understand a word he says, but like I understand his soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Beaker's great. Beaker's another one that's really funny
yeah. Like
because yeah,
for me personally, I in my senior year of high school creative writing class, and I'm pretty sure I've told this story on the podcast before. One of the older episodes of like season 1, if you want to call it that. But my senior year creative writing final, like my good 35% of my grade for the year final was a play, a one-act play between Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy and Beaker from the Muppets. So I kid you not, the script was just I am Groot and then Beaker going meep 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 meep. It gets better. I then, because I chose to do a play, had to have the rest of my group act out this play. So there were people standing in front of my creative writing class performing my work. That was one of them going, I am Groot. And then it was meep 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 meep. Just for like 5 pages. For like of
5 pages.
and oh no, there was like one spoken line, and it was I had somebody at the beginning play like Dr. Honeydew to like get it going, and like there was 1 or 2 spoken lines of that. But yes, and on top of that, it was all said and done. The creative writing class gave very awkward applause when it was done, and then I got 100% on the final.
Nice. I mean,
like
it is
yeah.
creative.
That is my life's work. Like if I were to die today, that is the thing like I want to be known for. I want to get that out to the people. Hey
the
Disney,
guy
if you're
who
listening, I took 2 of your properties and combined it better than you ever could. All right.
that reminds me of there was a Mel Brooks movie called Silent Movie where the whole movie was like a spoof on old silent films, and it's like
Okay.
these people like, hey, let's make a silent film, and they're asking all these different people to go in it,
Mm-hmm.
but like the whole movie is a silent film except for
Right.
one line which is spoken by a mime. Like they got the most, I forget his name, but it's the famous mime.
Okay.
It's like the
I don't
most
know mimes, so you're talking to the wrong guy. Like
well,
what it
it's the one that our professor
here
would always
most
talk
let me,
about in
let me ask
class.
Google most famous mime. Marcel Marcoux.
Yeah, that would be it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got him to say like one line, and it just said no. It was like the whole
Nice. Okay.
movie was silent except for that one line from the mime, which is a great gag.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have the same energy as that movie. Is honestly how I feel about it. I am definitely that talented. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, everybody.
Christian is Mel Brooks confirmed.
Look, you said it, not me. That's all I'm saying. All right.
You took.
But in the vein of the Muppets, right now, this Friday, we have the Five Nights at Freddy's movie releasing. Which I'm excited for. One, because I enjoy the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Two, because the animatronics are made by the Jim Henson like Puppet Workshop. Which, the day I found that out, I was very excited just because they look cool. But like, I'm not sure where you land in the land of Five Nights at Freddy's, like so forth.
So I was never really into the games because I'm not like I can't do jump scares. I hate
Okay.
jump scares. So I'm not like into the games. But overall, like I think the movie looks interesting. Like I saw the trailers and stuff. I'm like, this looks like I think I would enjoy this.
Okay.
And I especially did like the design of the way the characters look true to the game, but also it's like they do look animatronic, and I love that. I love that they aren't just CGI.
My favorite is they look so good that people think they're CGI, which I think is the funny thing. Like people are like, oh, it's just a CGI. It's like, no, that's a real thing that they used like on the set that they built, to the point where the Foxy animatronic on set caught on fire. After one of the takes, they literally finished the take, and then like its arm like combust, just like in just. Which I mean, I don't know if that speaks to the quality of their work or just malfunctioning. I don't know. But
I mean, yeah, but they look. I will say the character designs look good. The story overall, I mean, I know it's the basic of the video game, so you know, I'm interested to see like what liberties they take and stuff and how that goes. I also, you know, I know you've talked about it on the podcast before about how the ratings and stuff. Like, I am glad that they put a proper rating on it, but I hate how many people are going to let their 8-year-olds go and see it. Like, they're like,
yeah,
that's I don't want to dive too deep into that, but like,
no, I mean, I'm totally fine doing it, because one, it's closer to the release of the movie and so forth. And again, you're right. Ozzy and I talked about this. I talked about this with people at work, even like the next day. It was kind of wild. But yeah, it's that question of, not even the question. It's the statement. It's the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's is marketed to kids. It's heavily marketed to kids. Excuse me. And we live in an age like where, you know, the media isn't necessarily like gate kept by like parents or so forth, or like screened by parents. And so you know, you have kids watching Five Nights at Freddy's when they're like 8 years old, 10 years old, whatever, and then growing up with it thinking that like it's okay that they watch this, when like it's not. It's like if I were to grow up watching R-rated movies. Like I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's one of those things where it's like, I understand why there's an appeal to kids, because kids like spooky things, because it's like the curiosity thing of like, oh, this is odd. I feel like I shouldn't be seeing it, but now I can't look away because what is this? And then they want to rewatch it because it's like, okay, if I keep watching it, I won't be scared of it anymore, type of thing. But it's like, I know, like, I hate how the people in charge, like, they know, oh, hey, kids like this, let's market everything towards the children. Let's make t-shirts that only a child could fit into.
Right.
And sell, you know, of this character that literally their whole presence on screen is to murder people. So let's just, you know, like, it's just
my least favorite thing was, so we originally talked about this. Someone had made the point of, oh, it's the same as like Goosebumps. And it's like, it's not, because it is in the sense of it's a kid's horror novel scenario, right? But it's not, because we now live in an age where 20 years in the future now, where we are here in the present, we are much more desensitized to violence than we were 20 years ago. So like, yeah, Goosebumps was scary, but like if you go read a Goosebumps book now, it's not scary. Like And one, like, I don't know, it's just not. And it could be the fact of, oh, Christian, you're a 24-year-old adult. Well, like, sure, maybe, but like, I feel like if you were to take a Five Nights at Freddy's book and a Goosebumps book, like, and try to say they're on the same parody, like, I don't agree with that.
I don't agree either because of the fact that if you take a Goosebumps book, the stories in that, yes, they're scary, but they're like classic like horror stories of, oh, there's a ghost in the room, or there's, oh, this puppet comes to life, like stuff like that.
Right.
It's not oh, this animatronic literally is ripping people apart and eating people. Like there's this whole, like, it's different because Goosebumps, yes, they were scary, but they knew that they were going to be for kids. Like originally, they were written for children. So in that case, it wasn't about murder. It was about like ghosts and like
it's the issue of taking it like, and saying, yes, because again, the base Five Nights at Freddy's game, let's look at it, like, was about kid murder. Like, that's what it was about. It's literally about a serial killer murdering kids. And I don't know how we take that game and then actually subsequent, like, second, third, and fourth games, all those ones that initially released, and then go around and say, okay, we can make them into, like, kids' books.
Right.
Like, and saying kid might be like a little too far-fetched, but like even like that young adult middle reader section, like, and we're talking like the early young adult like kind of scenario. Like, I don't know. I still don't think that it's like okay. I don't know. It's just it's really interesting.
What was the rating of the first game?
I mean that's a great question. Let's
because that would tell you the target demographic of the initial audience that they were trying to reach originally.
Yeah. Hold on, where is it? Hang on. Pretty age rating. Apparently, not seem like an official thing right now, but a lot of people are saying like T for teen.
Okay.
Which I still don't agree with.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think it's better than like, even like 10 years old, in my opinion, is too young to be playing the game. Like, I understand certain people allow their kids, like, hey, you can do this at a little older ages. But, like, I mean, ever since the game came out, people younger than teenagers were playing it. Because I remember when it came out, like, my friends who were younger, like, all of them were playing the game. It's like, I don't know, we're like 10. Why are we playing this? Like,
Like, to kind of just lay it all out, I feel like, and not be as super sporadic of it, we're talking about a game that came out, and sure, let's say it was rated T for teen. Let's just say that, I guess. But we're talking about a game that then still, like, talks about, like, murder and, like, hints towards murder. Talks about the fact that, like, these animatronics are coming after you, like, to kill you. Not to, like, trap you or whatever. Like, no, they want to kill you, right? We then go on to the fact of, like, people will argue, oh, but it doesn't explicitly explain that in the games. Sure. But even if these kids aren't playing the game, they're watching somebody play it, right? And what does the YouTube algorithm love to do? It likes to recommend you things related to whatever you just watch. All it takes is them stumbling across one MatPat theory video in the recommended tab, and voila, you now understand that Five Nights at Freddy's, this thing you watch, is all about murder, but you don't really care because you don't really know what murder is as an 8-year-old kid.
Right. Like, exactly. And it's like, I mean, not to go into the personal lives of any of the people I babysit, but like, I have babysat kids that are in the age range where they are too young for Five Nights at Freddy's, but they know all the lore, and they say some troubling things because of like all that it's getting. And I'm not one of those people that says video games make all your kids violent, right. But there is a issue with, okay, these themes are too adult for children, and it's okay to explain life and death to a small child, but they don't need to be like the characters, especially because to them, because all the marketing is of the characters that are the bad guys. To them, Freddy's the hero. This character, like, he's the hero. They're all like the good guys in their eyes because it's like, oh, that's the cool character on my T-shirt. And it's like, then they're going to start getting these views of like, oh, hey, this is okay. Like, I can beat up my sister. I mean, it's not as bad as what my hero Freddy does.
Like, well, right. But even the sense of when I was searching up looking for the rating literally 2 minutes ago, all the also recommended search topics on Google were, is Five Nights at Freddy's okay for my 10-year-old? Is Five Nights at Freddy's okay for my 7-year-old? Is Five Nights at Freddy's okay for my 5-year-old? And again, part of the issue stems to, we live in an age of mascot horror, where like not only are we talking like Five Nights at Freddy's, but you also have Poppy's Playtime, which is another big one. And it's like, of these cute, cuddly toy characters doing terrible things. And then again, like you mentioned, parents and kids seeing the cute, cuddly thing in toy form, in shirt form, or stumbling across a thumbnail that's heavily edited and it shows a cutout of Huggy Wuggy from Poppy's Playtime, like on the thumbnail, and they go, ooh, click, and then spiral. Part of it doesn't even come down to the marketing, like it just comes down to the world we live in currently. Like,
and it's hard because even if your kids aren't watching it on YouTube, a lot of the kids I watch, they play Roblox, and if you go to the homepage of Roblox, all the suggested games are Roblox versions of those games. Like, Roblox versions of, and some don't even like hide it with like their theme of it, like they're faking it. Like they'll just straight up say, "Oh yeah, this is Five Nights at Freddy's," but on Roblox.
oh yeah, they're like,
you know,
or they stumble across the YouTube video that's Five Nights at Freddy's but in Minecraft, like, or whatever, and then they still get the same idea.
Right. It's like you can find a way around it, even if you say, "Hey, my kid's not allowed to play those games." They will find a different way to play those games and get those media, and like it is unfortunate, but that is kind of like how it is. Like just being online, you're gonna find those things. And yeah.
At the end of the day, like, I don't have a great answer to like stop it, because companies are going to be companies and like want to keep producing merch and toys and so forth. Like, developers are making a living, like parents are being parents. Like, there's not a great answer. It's all of these different amalgamations of things. I just think it sucks, the simple fact of the poor kid that's gonna like convince his mom to let him go see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and then be like traumatized that his favorite thing is what it actually is. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like, if you think about the media, like, I mean, how traumatized the kids will be from it. Like, imagine how scared we were of stuff like Ubi, where it's literally like a hand with eyeballs. That traumatized us. What is a little kid gonna think when they see an animatronic rip apart, like, straight up eat?
Well, and somebody made that joke on TikTok. Like, I saw that, and it's like, oh, the kid sitting in the audience while he watches like Bonnie rip apart someone, and it's like, but like parents aren't gonna know, like,
right? Exactly. I mean, this happens all the time, and it's like, even if they look at the ratings, they're still gonna be like, well, it's okay, I'm with my kid, and it's like, some of it boils down to the parents, others it doesn't. Like, I'm not gonna blame all the parents who take their kids, because some just don't know, but like, I don't know, do a little research, maybe go to the movie first without your kid, and then see like, hey, yeah, I'll take my kid back to this, or I won't,
Yeah. I don't know, it's really interesting, because it's also, like I said, us talking about it on this show, either, well, it's you and me and Ozzy, like, I've even had people literally nonchalantly out of nowhere bring this up when I was at work. Like, they literally walked up to me and they had like a Five Nights at Freddy's like toy in their hand, and like, do you think we market like Five Nights at Freddy's like to kids too heavily? Like, out of the blue. And I literally looked at them, I said, did you listen to like my podcast episode? And like, no, like I was just thinking this. And like, it's we're not the only people having this discussion, and I think that makes it all the more pressing as well.
Yeah. But that being said, I mean, I think the movie, for the target audience, I think it's going to be great. I think like it will be an enjoyable horror movie. Like, it will.
Like, as somebody who enjoys the games, like, and enjoys like the lore of that world, as like, again, being in that target audience of it, like, I'm excited to go see it. I think it'll be great. I think that the animatronics are going to look amazing, and I think it'll be great to have this thing on the silver screen. Like, I don't know. But
yeah, and I think
Five Nights at Freddy's
video game movies are getting better. Like,
thank God,
we're getting
right?
some good quality video game movies now. Like, we used to
the Lord.
Like, oh, they should have just left it to the story in the actual game. But now it's like, okay, now we're getting some good movies and shows based on video games.
Because
So
we're
like that's
finally
one
getting to the point where the teams that are working on these things are people that care. Like, and I think that's the biggest thing is for the longest time, video game movies are looked at as a cash grab, right? It's so we can slap the Mario Brothers name onto a movie, make it a movie, and we'll make a bunch of money. And then they don't really think about the fact that, okay, but now this thing will be hated for forever, and we don't ever want to see a movie of it again. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like even I think that one of the best shining examples of it of recent history is the Last of Us show. Like, one amazing game, and an amazing show as well. And it was done by people that care. Like one of the main directors, showrunners, and so forth was the game director of Last of Us. So like, you have these people that care about what they're working on.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you hire people who are passionate about like the work that you are trying to adapt to screen, it's gonna go so much better. And because of that, you will more than likely make better profits than if you
Right.
just like, oh, cool, cash grab, let's just throw this up. Then sure, people watch it and they might rage watch it, but then it's like, okay, the novelty's dead, it's over. But if you
Right.
have something people care about, then okay, now we can do merch. Now we can down the line, resell this on. I mean, no one's buying DVDs or Blu-ray anymore, but like, we can sell this to a streaming
Right.
service. We can
Now we
you
can
can
do merch. Speaking of
exactly.
merch, did you know that That's the Flavor now has merch? I'm actually wearing one of the Taste Buds t-shirts right now, right here. It comes in pink as one of the color options. And you can actually go over to oh god, what's the website link? It's so long. Hang on. That's the flavor.creators-spring.com, or you can head over to the link in the description and go ahead and buy yourself some That's the Flavor merch right now. We've got a Taste Bud t-shirt, hoodie. We've got That's the Flavor shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve shirt, and we also have stickers. So head on over to the shop right now and get yourself some That's the Flavor merch. And without further ado, let's get back to the show that we never left. I just paused it. And that's how we do ad breaks, because we don't actually have any current sponsors. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yep. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
I see a little bit of a brace on your arm there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How did that happen? Yeah.
So I, like I hinted at before, I do stand-up comedy on occasion, and these people who I've worked with before, they've directed a musical I was in, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing a variety show, and we want to know if you want to do your comedy." I'm like, "Oh, cool, sure, I'll do that." So I show up we have a cue, tech rehearsal. We do that, goes great. Next day I show up, and I'm like the second person there. So there's only like one other person in the theater at the time, and they're backstage, and I enter like the backstage entrance. I have only entered this theater once before, and that was for the tech rehearsal. So I don't know my way around this theater.
Sure.
I just know that
Classic new theater energy.
right. I just know that I gotta get to the lobby. So I'm like, okay, let me go. I'm backstage. I want to get to the lobby to see, like, if anyone else is out there, like the director, if they've arrived yet or whatever. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? So okay, I know my way through the auditorium. So I go in to the side entrance of the auditorium, and there's it's like a normal doorway. So, like, it's not big, but it's not small either. But it's just like one doorway, and the stage kind of curved. Now, that I did not know.
Okay.
So I walk in, and there's also like a bit of a step, not like a full step, but like just a little bit of a leveling issue. And so I walk in.
Just a small issue, yeah.
The theater's pitch black. So I'm like, okay, this shouldn't be too hard, because I can still kind of see. And also, I'll turn on my phone flashlight. So I'm
easy.
To turn on my phone flashlight. So I turn it on, and I'm walking. I'm like, I step over. Next thing I know, my flashlight glitches out, and I'm on the floor. I'm like, I don't know if I tripped on the little step, if I tripped on like the side of the stage.
Right.
I don't know what it was, but
nice.
I'm on the floor. and I like landed like on my elbow. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know what just happened, what I tripped over. I would call out for help, but there's only one guy here and he's like deep backstage. I don't even know if he
Right.
hears. I'm like, okay, let me just like, how do I stand up? Because I obviously didn't know it was broken yet. I just knew that it hurt to move it. Like, I could not move it. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, let me take my other arm, I'll boost myself up. I couldn't. I'm like, okay, I see the steps to the stage. Let me like drag. So I like dragged myself across the floor, pushed up on the step, and like got myself up. And then I just walk into the lobby and I stand there, and there's this lady sweeping the floor, and I just stand there awkwardly. And I'm like, hi. And then she's like, hi. I'm like, weird question, but do you have ice? And she's like, yeah, we might. Let me check back here in the freezer. Did you get hurt? I'm like, yeah. I kind of landed on my elbow, and I'm like holding back tears, but also like just so confused at what happened. And she's like, okay. And she opened it up and she's like, oh, what do you know? There's a bag of ice. It just happened to be a Ziploc bag of ice. So I'm like, cool, I'll take that. So I had it on my arm, and then she was talking to me about it, and then she's like, well, just sit here on this couch in like this side room. So I was just like laying on the couch. Then people were arriving, and the director walks in. She's like, what did you do? Like, you were here for 5 minutes. How did you get this injured? Why are you on the couch? Why is your arm faded? And so I'm like, okay, they're all like, well, do you need to go to the ER? I'm like, well, no, because usually they want you to wait 24 hours for an injury because they can't really tell through x-rays if it's too swollen, you know? So I'm like, I'll just wait. And they're like, well, do you need to go home? And I'm like, no, I'll just,
I'll just tough it out. I'll just tough it out.
So they made me, the director's like, okay, let me run up to the costume room. And she grabbed like a scarf and made a makeshift sling. And it just had my arm in this. And I had to change. Originally, I was going to do my new set, which was about salesmen and stuff. I adapted what I did my animation about to stage. So I'm like, I'll do that. Well, that relied on a lot of physical comedy. So I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. So I had to last minute change my act. And thankfully, not thankfully, but like, ironically, the only other set that I have completely memorized is my one about broken bones and signing casts.
You foreshadowed your own injury, like.
And so I'm just out there like saying my thing, and then I'm like, well, I'll see you guys tomorrow because we still had 2 more shows. And then I didn't get it looked at until the morning of our matinee. I'm like, okay, I have time to go in. And so I got it looked at, and then literally they gave me this brace, and then I had like half an hour to get back to the theater and go in for call, and then
they walk you walk into the doctor's office finally. They're like, you waited how long to come in? Like, this is definitely broken. Like,
day 3.
They took an X-ray and it has like the cartoon break. Like, it's like, oh no, that's definitely messed up. Like,
I guess what we could see on the X-ray was that like a little chip of the elbow fell off.
Oh, fell off where? Is it just floating around in your arm? Like
there, but it just like broke off, and it's just, and then they're like, well, we can't get everything through the X-ray, so then I had to have an MRI, and the results just came back, and there's like 5 different problems with this thing. They're like, oh yeah, not only is it that fracture, there's a couple of different fractures. There's like some torn something. It wasn't a torn ligament. It's some other things torn. Also, there's like an area in the joints. It's like effusion or something like that, which is where like the blood from like the bruising and everything gets into the joints. So like this thing's just
this is a
internal bruising.
This is a just to be clear. This is a Christian level clumsy injury. I want you to know, like, you have reached peak me clumsy injury.
It's worse
because it's just again, not to downplay it, but let's be real here. It's a glorified trip. Like
it's so much worse because then I've learned that there is a side entrance, like from backstage. If I had just walked through the hallway, there would have been, because it looked like it just went to the tech booth. Well, if you
Yeah.
go through the tech booth, it leads to the lobby. So there was a fully lit way for me to get to the lobby. And to make matters even worse, okay, I have not told anyone this part because it was kind of embarrassing.
How can you make... Okay, just to be clear, let's recap real quick on where we are before she makes matters worse. Okay, so walked in, injures, trips in the dark, injures elbow. Not only does she injure elbow, she waits a couple days to even get it looked at. Finds out elbow is busted. Add on to that, elbow is busted. Like it's got some problems busted. It's got ligament damage. It's got bone chips. It's got fusion damage, whatever that means. Internal bruising. And then, on top of it off, there was a safe way to enter the theater. And now let's continue, audience, on how it could get worse.
So, the only reason I wanted to get to the lobby was because I really needed to use the bathroom. There was a bathroom backstage. Literally, if I had just turned the other direction, I could have avoided all of this. I wouldn't have even had to go down the lit hallway either. I could have just turned to the other, because there's like 2 backstage rooms. If I had turned to that other backstage room, I would have seen there was a bathroom. And that is why we do not wander around unfamiliar theaters by ourselves.
This reminds me of when we decided we wanted to play hide and seek in our college's theater in the pitch black. It has that same energy to it, except luckily nobody got injured in that hide and seek, but that's the only dark theater experience I have.
I forgot about that. I forgot you guys did that.
Scary hide and seek in the college theater. You're like, oh, it gets worse. How? Oh, don't worry, it gets worse. How? Like, how are we, like, this, again, I go back to, this is a Christian level injury. This is a me falling down 2 flights of stairs injury before Midsummer Night's Dream, like, injury. I can't believe it.
This is the second time I have broken a bone on opening night of a show.
What's the Phineas and Ferb, like Dr. Doofenshmirtz? If I had a nickel for every time I, like, blah, blah, blah happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice. Like, that's literally you and your bones.
Yeah, because the first time I broke my foot on opening night of a musical, and they're like, well, we have this other person who can come in last minute and, like, fill in. I'm like, no, because this is the first show that I have dialogue, and I am not giving that up. I will perform, and I waited. That's another time I waited 3 days to get the injury check, because I'm like, if I get in a cast, I'm not going to get to perform. And I worked way too hard to get lines in this show.
Whenever Ozzy broke his ankle the first time, his first ankle, it was when he was playing Lord Capulet in Romeo and Juliet. And it was the weekend of our shows. And this man did not go to the doctor because he knew if they, like, put it in a brace or a cast, he wouldn't be able to, like, do anything with it. So he just had, like, 3 layers of sock on to keep the swelling down. Like, his leg was probably, like, this thick with pant/sock combinations. And he had, like, a cane and everything. Like, yeah. The ability of a young actor to play through injury when they shouldn't is very high. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what that's... There's got to be a correlation-causation graph there, like... But on that note, it is time to bring... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's surprisingly easy to hide a foot injury.
I mean, yeah, 100%. You just slap on, like, a shoe that you never take off for a couple days, like, and call it a day, you know? But on that note, it's time to bring this episode of That's the Flavor to a close, because it has already been 54 minutes of recording, which it zooms by, man, recording these episodes, let me tell you that. But yeah, the episode 42 of That's the Flavor in the books, you know, add one, chalk it up to the books, keep adding to that total. Episode 50, we're coming for you. yeah, thank you guys for listening to That's the Flavor. Taste Buds, we appreciate each and every one of you. Without you guys, we would not be doing this show. You can go ahead and find That's the Flavor on any of your social medias, any of your favorite podcast platforms, and even YouTube if you want to go ahead and see our beautiful faces as we record each and every week. Each and every week is when those episodes come out, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. If you want to go ahead and buy some That's the Flavor merch, there's a link down in the description. If you want to go ahead and support Victoria over at VicForAChange, go ahead and find her link to her channel down in the description below. And Victoria, thank you for coming on the show. It's been wonderful to have the occasional returning guest on here and there and get you guys back on the show. And I'm glad that we got to have you on for a little bit, laugh and hang out and have a good time. So thank you for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It was fun.
Of course. I love it because That's the Flavor has become a way for me to like reach out and regroup with like old friends and like just like friends that you don't get necessarily get to see a ton. So being able to have you on, have that vibe, definitely was a great time for sure. But yeah, without further ado, then Taste Buds, it's time to kind of draw the curtain in our metaphorical theater. And this has been That's the Flavor. I've been Christian. And we will go ahead and catch you guys all next week for another episode. But until then, enjoy the flavor, hang out, have a good time, and goodbye.